Humans have had spoken language for roughly 100,000 years. But our species is at least 300,000 years old. That means for the first 200,000 years of human existence, longer than everything we call civilization combined, multiplied by 20, we communicated without words. And not poorly. Not crudely. With a precision that modern language still cannot fully replicate. Scientists have spent decades trying to understand what that system was. What they found changes everything about what it means to be human. Let's start with what language actually is. Not what your teachers told you. What it actually is, mechanically, at the level of biology. Language is a compression system. You take a thought, something complex, layered, emotional, and you compress it into a sequence of sounds. Then someone else decompresses it on the other end. The problem is compression always loses data. Every time you say, "I'm fine," when you're not, every time someone says, "We need to talk," and you spend 3 hours trying to decode what they actually mean, that's the compression failing. Words are approximations. They always have been. And for the first 2/3 of human existence, your ancestors knew this. So they used something else. Here's what most people don't realize. The human face has 43 muscles. No other animal on Earth has this many dedicated facial muscles relative to body size. A chimpanzee, our closest relative, has significantly fewer. A dog has fewer. A wolf, built entirely around hunting and survival, has fewer. For a long time, scientists assumed this was a byproduct of something else: diet, skull structure, random variation. Then in 2017, a team of researchers at the University of Portsmouth made a discovery that reframed everything. They found that humans and dogs, two species that co-evolved together for roughly 33,000 years, had both independently developed the same specific muscle above the inner eyebrow. The LOM. Levator anguli oris medialis. One tiny muscle. Both species evolved it separately. And its only known function is to make the eyes look bigger, sadder, more expressive. Dogs didn't evolve it to survive the cold. They didn't evolve it to hunt better. They evolved it because humans responded to it. Because that expression triggered something ancient and hardwired in us. Care. Connection. Trust. Think about that for a second. A predator spent 33,000 years reshaping its own face to communicate with us. Not with sounds. With expressions. Because expressions worked. Because somewhere deep in our biology, we were already fluent in a language that had nothing to do with words. Now go back further. Way further. 300,000 years ago, your ancestors lived in groups of roughly 20 to 50 people. No written records. No formal language. But extraordinarily complex social structures. Alliances, hierarchies, cooperative hunting strategies that required precise coordination across distances. Researchers have long wondered how this was possible without language. The answer came from an unexpected place. Stillness. In 2003, anthropologist Adam Kendon published a landmark study on gesture. He had spent years cataloging spontaneous human movement across dozens of unrelated cultures, groups with no shared language, no shared history, no contact with each other. What he found was staggering. Across every single group, the same core set of gestures appeared independently. A palm facing outward meant stop or stay back. A downward open hand meant calm, sit, lower yourself. A cupped hand extended forward meant give or share. Pointing, which seems obvious, is actually incredibly rare in the animal kingdom. Almost no species does it. Humans do it instinctively from the age of 9 months. Before speech. Before walking. Before almost everything else a baby learns to do, they point. Kendon argued that gesture wasn't a supplement to language. It came first. Language grew on top of it. And the evidence was in the brain. Broca's area, the region most associated with speech production, is also heavily activated during hand gestures. The same neural real estate. The same circuitry. Speech didn't replace gesture. It borrowed gesture's infrastructure. Your brain's language center wasn't built for words. It was built for movement. Words just moved in later and claimed the space, but gesture only works when you can see each other. So what happened at night? What happened across distances? What happened when gesture wasn't enough? This is where it gets strange. And this is the part that modern science spent decades dismissing before the evidence became impossible to ignore. Humans synchronized. Not metaphorically. Physically. Measurably. Neurologically, in 2010, Uri Hassan's lab at Princeton published research on what they called neural coupling. When one person speaks and another listens, their brain activity doesn't just correlate. It mirrors. The listener's brain begins to anticipate the speaker's patterns, predict their emotional states, fire in response to signals the speaker hasn't even consciously sent yet. But here's what got researchers. The coupling worked even when language was stripped out. When subjects watched silent video of faces, their neural patterns synchronized almost as strongly as with speech. The face was transmitting something. The brain was receiving it. And neither party was doing it deliberately. You've experienced this. You walk into a room and immediately know something is wrong before anyone says a word. You sit next to a stranger on a flight and within minutes feel either completely comfortable or completely on edge and you couldn't explain why. A friend tells you they're fine and every cell in your body knows they're lying. That's not intuition. That's an ancient system activating. A receiver picking up a signal it was built to detect. A language older than any word you've ever learned. Your ancestors used this constantly. Around the fire at night, 300,000 years ago, there were no words to describe grief. But everyone in the group recognized it. Not because someone explained it. Because the body broadcast it and the bodies around it received the signal and responded. Automatically. Involuntarily. The way your pupils dilate in low light. The way your heart rate rises near a predator. Not a choice. A system running exactly as designed. Here's the part that nobody talks about. We didn't lose this language. We buried it. Sometime around the development of formal speech, human cultures began rewarding verbal articulation over physical expressiveness. The person who could argue well, speak clearly, construct a logical sentence, that person gained status. The person who communicated mostly through presence and expression got called quiet. Intuitive. Emotional. Not quite as smart. We built entire educational systems around verbal intelligence while treating the body's communication as secondary. Unreliable. Unprofessional. You've probably been told at some point to control your face. To keep a poker face. To not let your emotions show. You were being trained to suppress a 300,000-year-old communication system in favor of one that's been around for a fraction of that time, and the cost has been significant. Researchers studying loneliness, one of the fastest-growing health crises in the modern world, consistently find that verbal communication alone doesn't resolve it. You can text someone every day and still feel completely alone. You can attend a meeting where everyone speaks clearly and efficiently and leave feeling like you had no real contact with another human being. What's missing is the older signal. The neural coupling. The involuntary broadcast and receive that happens when bodies share space over time and stop performing and just exist near each other. The most isolated people in the modern world aren't the ones who speak the least. They're the ones whose older communication system has gone almost entirely quiet. Who have learned so thoroughly to manage their expression, control their posture, flatten their presence, that the ancient receiver in the people around them picks up nothing. Static. And the ancient brain, built over hundreds of thousands of years to scan for exactly that signal, registers absence where there should be connection. And calls it loneliness. Your ancestors never had a word for loneliness. Not because they didn't feel it. Because they almost never experienced it. They were too fluent in a language that made isolation nearly impossible. They broadcast constantly. They received constantly. Every body in the group was a transmitter and a receiver running without pause, day and night, around fires, on hunts, during meals, in silence. We traded that fluency for vocabulary. For syntax. For the ability to write this sentence and send it across the world to someone we've never met. And that trade gave us everything civilization is built on. But it cost us something quiet. Something old. Something that ran so deep in our biology that most of us don't even notice it's gone, until we're in a room full of people speaking clearly and efficiently. And we still feel completely alone.